Dom from BlackToad Studios, and today we are playing an apocalypse game of epic proportion. We have got 7,000 points of Tyranids against 7,000 points of Chaos. So we've got Deathguard, Chaos Marines and Demons versus a massive hive fleet. There is a Titan appearing in this, so it's going to be pretty epic. So today we've got the mission of the Tyranid forces will be defending this town here. Chaos forces running across no man's land here from the fortifications to attack the Tyranid menace. So in this mission we've got several objectives. We've got one objective back here in Chaos deployment, and likewise over in the NID deployment over here the Tyranids have got an objective there. If the Tyranids are holding this at the end of the battle, it is worth 2 victory points. If Chaos capture it, it's worth 5 victory points. And likewise for the objective over here, mirroring the same there. And across the center we have 3 objective markers, one down there by the bastion, one in the center here, and one down here by this ruined building. They're also worth 2 points each at the end of the battle. We are doing our standard house rules of you get a victory point for each super heavy which is killed, and we get a victory point for each HQ unit which is also killed. So it's going to be a very bloody engagement. So let's have a look at the forces that are coming today.
So here we have 7,100 points of Tyranids. We have in front of us here a battalion, spearhead, a vanguard and a flyer detachment. Is that right? Super heavy detachment, pardon me. Gavin here is going to go through what he has bought.
Okay, starting off, we've got a vanguard detachment here consisting of 3 Morlocks, 2 Tyranid primes and a flying hive tyrant with monstrous bone swords.
Very nice.
Coming down we've got 9 warriors equipped with bone swords and death spitters and 3 venom cannons. The other warrior there, he's got a bone sword and a lash whip. Excellent. As well as flesh hooks. We've got Hosprex there, all standard.
Staying there. And in the front here
I've got 6 Raveners. They've got the 4x mounted death spitters and rendering claws.
Nice.
Up here I've got a Tyranids armed with 5 venom cannons.
Lovely. And then this swarm in the middle here.
Moving across I've got 30 gargoyles. That'd be interesting to see what they do. They were a nightmare to paint.
I bet.
I've got my Swarm Lord as my Warlord, my Malamthrope. And moving across I've got my Barbed Hero Drill. Coming down I've got my Tervigon with 2 squads of 20 termagants.
Down here, just at the front here, and then we'll go straight over
here. Broodlord with 16 gargoyles, a Neurothrope and 5 Venomthropes. Not Venomthropes, Zonothropes.
Zonothropes, sorry, yeah.
I've got a Spore Cyst, again armed with 5 venom cannons.
Lovely.
I've got 2 Exocrines.
Oh yeah, sorry, at the back army. Yeah, okay. And then
2 Exocrines. I've got 3 Tyrannofexes, 2 armed with rupture cannons and 1 armed with acid spray, and they've all got stinger salvos.
Stinger salvos, okay.
I've got 2 Harpies armed with barbed stranglers,
quite a lot
stranglethorn cannons and stinger salvos, and a flying hive tyrant armed with 2 death spitters and scything talons.
Awesome. Then we've got a monstrosity.
And then finishing up, I've got my barbed Hierophant, Bio Hierophant, Bio Titan, dubbed Bio Betsy.
Betsy. All right, well, okay, that's really good. So who's your Warlord here?
My Warlord is my Swarm Lord.
Swarm Lord in the middle, lovely. And how many command points do we work out you had in total?
Total command points is 10 command points.
So this is quite a nice selection of NIDs here, so we'll be back in a minute with the Chaos Forces.
It's Dom from BlackToad Studios, and here is a Chaos Force mounted up to fight against the Tyranid menace. So today we've got 3 different legions coming to fight against the Xeno threat. Over here on the right we've got the debut of the Night Lords on the channel, Tom's nice new army, and his Warlord will be leading this force. In the centre here we've got a Word Bearer contingent with a lone Lord of Skulls by the World Eaters, and over on the left here we have got the Toxic Deathguard with some demon ally over here. So if we start over on the left here and move away right, let's have a look at the forces we're bringing today. So at the rear here we've got your standard Chaos Land Raider We have got a demon prince with wings there, and an axe. Looks like a mace, but in fact it's an axe with lots of different heads. We've got Korbaks over here. We've got the Bell Guy. The Bell Guy is back. We have got a Malefic Lord there, not Malefic Lord.
Lord of Contagion.
Lord of Contagion, thinking about my renegades there. Plague Surgeon, squad of Deathguard there, armed with what they've got there. They'll be protecting the Warlord. Front here, we've got a squad of Cultists with auto guns. Next, we've got a squad of Poxwalkers, beautiful, beautiful Poxwalkers. Then we've got 2 squads of Plague Bearers with a Herald there. 3 Greater Blight drones there. A giant spawn hidden back here. And down here, last but not least, 3 bases of Nurglings. So moving over for the Word Bearer element, we have got a Chaos Vindicator at the back there. We have got a Land Raider. We've got 5 Terminators there with a bit of a mix of weapons. We've got a Dark Apostle in the centre, 3 Mutilators, another Land Raider. We've got a Lord of Skulls with a Demigore cannon, a Skull Hurler, and of course the Great Cleaver. 2 Chaos Rhinos here with Havoc Launchers, a squad of 10 Rubric Marines with Warp Flamers. Havoc squad here with 4 Plasmas, one with a champion there, a Chaos Sorcerer with Mark of Tzeentch. Alright, so moving over to the right, so we've got the Night Lords now. So we have got a battalion over here, we've got 3 squads of Chaos Marines here, armed with what they have there, so a couple of Lightning Claws and Plasmas. And they are Mark of Nurgle. And an Icon of Despair. We've got a Chaos Contemptor here with the Assault Cannon. We have got 3 squads.
Yeah, 3 squads of Havoc.
3 squads of Havocs here.
Mark of Tzeentch with an Icon of Flame each as well.
And yep, Mark of Tzeentch, Icon of Flame. Got a Chosen squad back here, all ready to go into this flyer here. So this guy is going to be appearing on the channel as well, see how well it does. We've got a Chaos Renegade Knight here as well with the Avenger Gatling Cannon. And leading this force and the entire army is this Chaos Lord with dual Lightning Claws in Terminator armour there. And Claws of the Black Hunt, so the relic weapon for the Night Lords. Right, so that is our force. In total, I'm not sure how many command points we've got here. We've got a fair few, but I will let you know in a moment. Right, so we just added up, and in total we have 24 command points here, so a lot more than the Nids, but at the same time, they've got a Bio-Titan, and we have not. So it could be a bit of a struggle. But that's it. Let's have a look at the battlefield and what deployment looks like. Right, so now both sides have finished deployment. Over here we've got the Hive Fleet, which has taken shelter in the ruins, and you're getting ready to pounce out upon no man's land and take the centre. Of course, we've also had a fortification drop in here, and the Chaos Forces have put their elite Nurglings onto this objective over here. Across the battlefield, we also have the Chaos Forces forming a strong line across the centre, and the smaller, weaker troops are sitting at the back preparing to defend against a deep striking element from the Nid force. Chaos Force did deploy first, so we're going to roll up to see who goes first. So Tom, roll a dice and add +1 to this. 4. Can the Nids defeat this? 5. So Tom, let's try and seize. Get a 6. No. Right, so over to turn 1 for the Nids.
As turn 1 commences for the Tyranids, we can see here the swarm has moved forward. A lot of the big nasties taking the lead and the flyers. So down here, you've had some of the gargoyles move up into a gap here, advancing very quickly into the open area here. And we had this is the Harpy, yeah? Harpy coming up the front here, and obviously we've got a Hive Titan here and a few of the other larger beasties in the middle there. And then on the far side, we have the 2 Tyranid Effectors just trying to get in range of their weapons. And then in the centre here, the big boy here has decided to stay still for the moment. I think there was not enough movement to get where was required that turn. So that will be all the movement done. We're going to head on to the psychic and shooting phases and see what damage the Nids can do to the Chaos Forces. So just before we move on to the shooting and psychic, we had one last minute move here as a change of mind. So the centre here has moved up, and the big nasty has decided to come forward to get himself in range of various things. So we'll now move on to psychic and shooting for the Tyranids in turn 1. Okay, so as the psychic and shooting comes to an end for the Tyranids, there was some catalyst going off over here. I think this has got catalyst. This has got catalyst. Correct? No, not that one. That one. And I thought that one as well. Yeah, you got that one as well. And I think they got the harpy as well. And one more in there. Yes, that's right. Everything else has failed it. And then the shooting phase commenced, and the Titan opened proceedings here, firing all the way over here into the Lord of Skulls. Not hitting very well, but somehow taking off 22 wounds. Mainly because obviously it's got its macro weapon, so it doubles up any wounds onto a Titanic vehicle, so that's pretty bad. Lots of other shots came in from other locations, so like the Tyrannifixes here and the Exocrines, was it? Yeah. Is that right? Yeah, all them shot over, and basically we had some come into the flyer at the back here, knocking it down to 14 wounds. We had a whole stack come into the Knight in the middle here, knocking it down to 16 wounds. And over here, finally, the Blight drone at the front here did take a few wounds for getting in the way of some of the shots of the Nids weaponry as well. Now, the real question is there any assaults going? No, there's no assaults. So that is actually the end of the Tyranids' turn. We'll now move on into Chaos's first turn and see if they can retaliate with some damage onto the Nids.
Turn 1 movement for Chaos, and across the line here the Chaos forces are all pushed up. The armour over here with the flyer are pressed up now very closely against the Tyranid lines here. The wounded Lord of Skulls luckily regenerated 1 wound, so he's taken him up 1 bracket. I'm not sure he's going to be around for turn 2, but we're going to try and do some damage before he goes out. In the centre here, Lamb Raider, as well as a Contemptor, the Knight, callbacks there, and the Demon Prince all pushed up here. The back line here with the Deathguard elements and the Demons are slowly pushing forward as well, being cautious not to leave the back exposed for deep striking Tyranids. And over on this flank here, you've got the greater Blight drones facing off against this Harpy on the left here. Nurglings still sheltering in here. Hopefully Tyranids will forget about them again, but we will find out. So we're going to move on to turn 1, psychic and shooting for the forces of Chaos. Turn 1, psychic and shooting for the forces of Chaos. So, main event really was all the Lamb Raiders. So the Lamb Raider from the Deathguard, the 2 Lamb Raiders from the Word Bearers, and of course the flyer here fired all their last cannons, synchronised over to the Bio-Titan here, dealing a total of 29 wounds to this thing. Even with the -1 to hit there, it kind of saved its skin a bit there, but it's still a major threat on the battlefield here. Down here, the Word Bearer armour here took out quite a few of the gargoyles here. They probably took 8 out, I think. Lord of Skulls fired its flamer as well in there, killed a few as well. Night Lord position number 1. The Sorcerer cast Prescience onto the missile team there, and with Veteran Long War, they also fired over towards the Bio-Titan there, and definitely made it kind of scratch on its carapace there. Down here, in Night Lord position 2, they fired heavy bolters across into the Hive Tyrant, doing a little bit of damage here, taking 2 wounds off of that Hive Tyrant there. Down here, the Nurgle forces been concentrating their fire on here, and this guy has got 9 wounds left. 3 wounds left. Okay, so there we go. He's taking 9, got 3 wounds left. A lot of damage there, and we've got a potential charge going to happen on this flank here. And I think as well, the Knight is going to try its luck as well and do a potential charge. So that's it for shooting. We've done a fair bit of damage. Let's see what we can do in assault. Turn 1 for Chaos. Right, so turn 1 assault, and it's all over. The Knight here attempted to charge into the fortification there, did nothing. A bit of Overwatch, did nothing back in return there, but failed the charge. But down here, the Plague drones, 2 of which got into combat there, and dealt 2 wounds out to the Harpy. Harpy didn't do anything in return, but Harpy's on 1 wound, so I'm not sure what the Tyranids are going to do about this over here. Right, so that is the end of turn 1. It's looking pretty nasty, this battlefield. Let's move on to turn 2 for the Tyranids.
So as turn 2 for the Nids commences, over here we've had a massive movement up the board again, and also a lot of deep strikers have turned up in the back end of the board and in the middle. But as you can see here, most things have made a solid move forward, and now the centre ground is looking pretty flooded with the green tide of the swarm heading forward. Towards the back lines here, we've got this Land Raider here has been surrounded by, these are Morlocks, are they? Or yeah, they are Morlocks, yeah, sorry. I've just popped it up here, and obviously the Hive Tyrant coming into the space here. And on this side, or in the middle, another Morlock here popping up behind, ready to cause some havoc in the back lines, and likewise another one over here. So the back line has definitely got a few threats lurking there now. The Gargoyles have all moved up, ready to lay in some assaulting here as well, along with another Hive Tyrant, obviously eyeing up the Flyer. There was also a stratagem played to try and regain a few wounds on the Titan here, and they managed to get to one back in the end. So that is the end of movement. We'll now move into Psychic and Shooting. Turn 2, Psychic and Shooting. We had a bit of Psychic going on here. I believe the Titan's now got Catalyst on it. That's correct, yeah? And what else got? Did something else get Catalyst as well? I think it was the one over here, wasn't it? Yes. So that's it. And we had quite a lot of Psychic Screams and Smites, which obviously took a few wounds off in various locations, sort of here, and over there. Also, just to recap, the Morlocks that popped up all did some wounding on various vehicles around them where they popped up. You can see they've been taking a few wounds off to the various models nearby. Shooting-wise, well, there was obviously quite a lot of shooting here. I think a lot of damage actually came from the Tyranids actually, which unfortunately, with some firepower, took the Lord of Skulls out. However, the Lord of Skulls did do very well. It did manage to kill 4 Gargoyles before it died. Yeah, so got its points worth, so should be good. Unfortunately, also the Contender down here is now down to 2 wounds after getting lit up by this pod. Very nice of it. But other than that, there was a few bits of shooting in other locations. I think spanning. I think the Land Raider was targeted but not actually damaged. Also, I think the Beast here down. Oh, that was the Morlock that did that. But nothing else other than that, really. I think so. That is the Psychic and Shooting. We'll now move on into the assault phase. I'm pretty sure we've got some assaults about to happen, unless Gavin doesn't want to. No, he does want to. We were hoping he might just sort of let us live a little longer. Well, we'll now see what happens in the assault phase for Tyranids in turn 2. Tyranids turn 2 assault, and there has been quite a few assaults. This Hive Tyrant had quite a lucky escape. The Overwatch was utterly devastating, leaving it on 3 wounds. It didn't actually do any wounds to the Flyer in the end, but the Flyer didn't do anything back to it in combat either, so they have dead heat in that one. Down here, the Gargoyles that charged in, I think Dom did very well again and killed a Gargoyle with his 3 combatants there, and the Gargoyles did no damage to the vehicles. In the centre here, during the initial fight phases, the Knight actually interrupted, just in case he wouldn't get his attacks, and managed to take 6 wounds off the Super Heavy there. However, he did take 3 back in return, so he's down to 12 at the moment. Over here, the Land Raider did take a couple of wounds from the Hive Tyrant, I think, or was it just 2, wasn't it? 3 wounds, sorry, from there. And the Hive Tyrant didn't take any back, I presume, from the Land Raider, so no, nothing too drastic there. Over here, the Nurglings just about hang on with one of their bases left in the fight. So that is all of the combat done. We're now going to roll on over to Chaos, turn 2.
Alright, so turn 2 movement for Chaos. So over here, the Rhinos have disembarked their occupants, which are now lined up shots. So the Rubric Marines are lining up against the Gargoyles there, and the Havocs of the Sorcerer are kind of going to pick their targets between there and seeing what they're able to do. Of course, the tanks have moved then out of combat. Land Raider here is pushed forward slightly, trying to head towards the centre still. Mutilators and the Dark Apostle have disembarked from the Land Raider in the centre and now going against the creature formerly known as Cuddles. Down here, the Night Lords have repositioned themselves on this landing pad to put in some fire down here to aid the Word Bearers. Down here, the Deathguard, almost in zombie state, so moving towards the nearest target here, and they're going against these guys. I'm going to put some shots up at the Harpy, but we'll see what goes on there. The Knight has fallen out of combat here. He's going to put in some Gatling shots against that beast to hopefully cripple it. And down over here, the Land Raider has disembarked its men and then moved back slightly, so it's there. And down here as well, everything's turning its fire to the deep striking elements that are now popping up across the battlefield. But one last thing, we've got the Night Lord Flyer has flown across the battlefield and is now in the centre of the city. I'm sure it's going to do like a strafing run on the Bio Titan there to try and do more damage and take it out of action, but who knows what will happen. So let's move on to turn 2, Psychic and Shooting for Chaos. Turn 2, Psychic and Shooting. So that's been pretty good for the Forces of Chaos this turn. We took out a Morlock over here with a bit of combined fire from the plasmas down here, a smite, the melter gun, a combi melter, bolters and flamers, and eventually have taken him out of action there. The gargoyles were incinerated here by the warp flamers. They came in and just ripped them apart quite quickly. The Land Raiders here fired everything they had over towards the Bio Titan, but wasn't enough, unfortunately, did nothing. The only damage this thing received really was from the flyer as it flew over, did a little bit of damage on there. But this thing, considering what it took last turn, has done quite well. I think it's 11 wounds it's been inflicted.
Yeah, 11 wounds. No, first turn was 29 wounds.
Yeah, 29 wounds first turn, and now a lot less. So it's still there, still a big threat on the battlefield. Back here, the Chaos Marines in this building, and with the missiles, everything, we tried to take out the Hive Tyrant there. That is now gone. Down here as well, another one of the Hive Tyrant, oh no, sorry, the Harpies has fallen over here, and the Broodlord has also fallen. So in total, the Nids have lost 4 units in this turn, which is pretty good going, but there's still a lot to do. And coming into assault now, hopefully the Chaos Forces can push the Hive Fleet back across the line and secure the centre. Let's find out in turn 2, Assault for Chaos. Turn 2, Combat for Chaos. So over here it's been a bit of a tough slog and not much has happened really. There's been assaults going in here, Lord of Contagion, Plague Surgeon and the Giant Spawn charged into the Hive Tyrant. Hive Tyrant was able to kill off the Surgeon, but did take 3 wounds, 1 from each of those units there. Got combat that's happened over here as well. So the Deathguard have pushed the Nids back even further. In the centre here, the Knight took a fair bit of damage from an interrupt there, and I think it's only on 3 wounds now. That's not very good. And 1 mortal wound was handed out there to the Barbed Hero from Corvax there. Moving across here, cultists swarmed the Trigon here. Trigon wasn't actually able to do anything because being out of Synapse has lowered his attack ability as well, so not much has happened there. But the Demon Prince was able to swat the Harpy from the sky, so that one has fallen. And finally, in the centre here, what we all care about, the Mutilators killed off Cuddles and did 18 wounds to him, so he is gone, freeing them up to kill something else and see what else happens. So that is it for turn 2 for Chaos. Pretty good going. Let's move into turn 3 for Nids.
So as the game enters turn 3 for the Tyranids, quite a lot's happened in the Nids' third turn here. And over here we've had a pop-up of some Gene Stealers with a friend, with a Trigon Prime. So they are now ready to engage multiple units in this area. In this corner, some Raveners have popped up in the corner, so there's a little gap for them to arrive. And then we kind of move back into the main parts of the force again. So the Barbed Hero here has moved out of combat with the Knight to give multiple targets options to shoot at the Knight or recharge it if they really want to. We've got some movement of the troop choices at the back here, just making their way forward from the back of the table. Seems to be avoiding the flyer back here. I don't know what's going to happen to that. I'm assuming he's got a plan, because even the Titan has moved forward there and he seems to be pointing at something in the backfield there. But we'll see what happens in a minute. I'm sure he'll just forget about it, so it's absolutely fine. And then over here in the middle, we've had another bit of reinforcement turn up in the centre here, ready to start heading on into the tanks and various other units here for the Chaos forces, because the Chaos had a good turn last turn. So I think there needs to be some pretty big pain for the Tyranids here to come back into the fight a bit more. So we'll now move on into turn 3, Psychic and Shooting for Tyranids. So as turn 3, Psychic and Shooting comes to an end, it has been quite a horrific phase for the Forces of Chaos and quite a good phase for the Nids. There was some Psychic going on and off in various locations. I think there was Catalyst on, was it on the main, on the Trigon here, on the Warriors. So they're all covered by that. And other than that, I think there's some Psychic Screams and other bits and pieces at various locations. However, the main things that happened in the middle here, we had the Knight die to a barrage of fire from a, well, actually it took a few things to shoot it down in the end because it didn't quite finish with the main weapons, but both the pods there, or the fortification, had a shot at it and sorted that out. Also, we had the Land Raider die down here in the middle, which is got blew up quite easily, and also a couple of the Mutilators got taken out in the additional firepower that came in there. Unfortunately, at the back over here, there was some nasty acid spray from a source over here, which was hiding around the corner, that took out the Night Lord's flyer, and unfortunately, in the resulting fireball, lost 4 men in the price of the bargain as well. So, pretty banged up Chaos now. However, we're now going to move on to the assault phase for Nids and just see if they can inflict any more pain, and then we'll be rolling on to Chaos. So as turn 3 for the Nids comes to an end, the combat phase has just finished, and down here you can see a wall of Gene Stealers having crashed into the Poxwalkers. I think they killed 50% of them? 10 of them, but they also got one back in the end from killing a Gene Stealer. Not quite sure how that works, but apparently they can do that. Over here, the Ravners finished the combat with the Plague Bearers. Plague Bearers opted not to consolidate in to try and keep them out of combat. Over here we had basically a little bundle in from these Plague Bearers into here trying to take some more wounds off this guy here. So moving over to this side, I think, was there anything that happened here or was it pretty unmentioned? A draw on each, a couple on each, was it? Yeah, fine. No, nothing. All right, excellent. And then the real notable part of this particular round was over here, where the Trigon Prime charged in to the Land Raider, destroyed the Land Raider. The Land Raider blew up. 6 wounds to the Demon Prince over here, which was just about saved with Disgusting Brilliant. The entire squad of the Mutilators died, along with the Dark Apostle, and also 2 of the Terminator squad inside the Land Raider died. With one. And also the Vindicator took 3 wounds as well. However, he took 1 wound. So reroll. With a reroll on a 1 to a 1. So bit awkward. Actually, there was one more a little bit here with the callbacks managed to take off 6. I think it was 6 wounds, wasn't it? In the end, off the Barbed Hierodul. So not too bad, and he took 1 as well. So that is the combat phase. Chaos really needs to pull it out the bag next turn to stay in this fight. So let's see what happens in Chaos turn 3. So as Chaos starts turn 3, the movement phase just ended. Over here we can see that a lot of the Night Lords on this platform have moved forward to try and get an angle on these Gene Stealers down here. Also the squad up here backed out of combat to give shooting options on this. Prime here, Trigon Prime here. This squad has shuffled around to get a lot of shots in on the Ravners, along with the squad which was in the tower, which has come out and dropped down. Also over here at the back, the Chaos Lord and his Chosen have jumped through the ruins here. I'm going to go and try and cause a little bit of panic in the back lines here. It's going to be interesting to see if they actually manage to do that. And in an interesting little assault move over on this side of the board, Dom has moved his Rubric Marines towards the Warriors here. There's a lot of Flamers which are in range now, and they are assault weapons, so it should be interesting to see if they can survive that. And also the Terminators that were in the Land Raider last time just come this way to try and deal with the Gene Stealers, along with the Demon Prince, which is also an option in that area. So that is movement done. We're now going to head on into this Psychic and Shooting and see what happens. So Chaos needed to answer back in turn 3 psychic shooting, and they have done. Essentially, in this area here, as you can see, the warriors have been thinned down. I think with those 4, I think it's 4, wasn't it, in the end? And that was from various sources of fire, but mainly I think the warp flamers here really taking a toll in that area. There's also some psychic stuff that went off to whittle them down a bit. Over here, the Gene Stealers took an absolute fusillade of fire of everything on this platform and everything around here, just to really knock them down, including psychic powers, taking them down to 2. That was quite a large squad last turn, as you can probably remember. Also over here, the Raveners, they took all the bolter fire and other weapons from this Marine squad here and this Chaos Marine squad up here, or the Havoc squad, with all the plasmas overcharging and firing in. Did lose another plasma to some overcharge failures, but however, it has left 1 Ravener left alive on 2 wounds. However, on the major news front over here, the Titan has finally fallen. That was after taking shots from missile launchers over there, and I think, was it finally on some las cannons here as well, wasn't it? Yeah, las cannons here, and the greater blight drone over there, and the heavy bolt was finished off the Titan. It did have a death throw which caused, I think it was 5 wounds here, 5 wounds here, 4 wounds here, 4 there as well, and I think 1 on that end over there, so quite a devastating death throw as well. We did also try a sneaky overcharged plasma volley from in here at the X-Screen, but we didn't do too much damage in the end. So looking a little bit more even now, I think. So we'll now move on into the assault phase and see what happens. So at the end of turn 3, combat for Chaos, we had a few casualties on both sides. So over here we had the X-Screen die to the charge from the Lord and his Chosen. However, it kind of backfired because it exploded and took out 3 of them, and also, 2 of them, and also 3 wounds off the Lord. We had a bit of back and forth here, with 1 Terminator dying and the Morlock being left on 1 wound, and also over here, the Demon Prince that charged in died to some horrendous attacks coming in from the Trigon Prime. This Prime has managed to survive as well from all the attacks that were going on, and in the middle here, the Barbed Harridan has finally met its demise at the hands, I think it was Corvax in the end, but unfortunately the Lord of Contagion that was here also died to the Swarm Lord's swift attacking methods. Kicking out, so there was quite a back and forth of victory points there as well, Gavin picking up quite a few for his Tyranids. So that is the end of turn 3 for Chaos. We're now going to move on to turn 4 for the Tyranids. So as turn 4 movement comes to a very quick end for the Tyranids, we had some movement over here, getting towards the objective here. We also had a Monklin spawn spawned over here from this fortification area here, so that's ready to do some possibly exploding, I presume. There was some movement from the warriors on the far side of the table there, with the, I think the Xenothropes as well, just coming in to give them a bubble for snaps and stuff. So that is it, pretty much. We're now going to move on into Psychic and Shooting for Tyranids in turn 4 and see what happens. Okay, so during the Psychic and Shooting phases, there was quite a lot of firepower whittled around the board. Over here, we had 4 Rubrics die, and that was from, I think it was some smites from here, but also there were some shots rang in onto the Vindicator here, taking no wounds off it. So it's down to 5 wounds. Over here, the Bloat Drone met its end to various shots from the sport. I think it was the 2 things here, wasn't it, in the end?
I think it was
it was both those 2 there, and also there was some spillover from some shooting over there, which killed 1 more of my Chaos Marine Chosen over there. There was some attempted shooting from the Trigon here into the platform, which killed 1 additional Marine here. However, that is about it really. So we'll now head on into the assault phase and see what the Nids can do. So as turn 4 fighting phase ends for the Tyranids, there's a few casualties for the Tyranids down here. We had a Morlock go bye-bye here, and also another one go dead here. That was actually the Bell that managed to kill it, which was quite amusing. We had some little back and forth here, however the Marines came out on the bottom with 2 dying. Moving over here, we also had, I think, was there anything exchanged? Oh yeah, 1 wound here was dealt onto the Blight Drone here, but other than that, I think the Vindicator took a couple of wounds. No, didn't even take a wound. So that combat there was resolved pretty quickly with nothing going on. So it was a pretty non-eventful combat phase, really, bar the Morlocks dying. So that will be the end of turn 4 for the Nids. We're going to go to turn 4 for Chaos and see what happens.
Turn 4 movement for Chaos. So down here we've got the Rubric Marines are going to kind of push up here to try and deal with this part of the Tyranid swarm here. The Havocs and the Sorcerer are moved onto the objective with the Rhinos there protecting it from the Tyranid warriors. The Vindicator backed out of combat, has gone flat out towards the centre objective to try and capture that. Up here once again the Night Lords have repositioned themselves into the optimal locations, with the Poxwalkers down here doing a bit of a run move, trying to join the centre. They're not going to make it, but at least they'll try. Down here, the Cultists and the 2 remaining Terminators are coming up to assist the Night Lords up here to secure the objective. They're also being joined by the Plague Bearers, so they need to get up here, secure it and hold it from the Nid swarm. Down here, moving along, got the giant swarm spawn there. We've got some Deathguard troops here, moving on to the objective with the Nurglings. Bit of repositioning here by the Land Raider, because the Blight Drones have fallen out of combat and have come over here to try and deal with the Gaunts and aid the Warlord in his attempt to stop this objective being controlled by the Nids. So that is it. We're going to move into turn 4, Psychic and Shooting for Chaos. End of turn 4, shooting for Chaos. So down here, the Tyranid warriors were finally dispatched. A bit of fire came in from the Night Lords up here, pitter-pattered on there, and I think took a couple of wounds there. They were then joined by the Combi Bolters here on the Rhinos and the Plasmas there. They all fired in and eventually cleared out this squad here. So they then freed up the Rubrics to be able to fire out the Neurothrope here to try and take another victory point. But it's got a free up invulnerable save, and the Flamers only were able to do 1 wound there. In the centre though, the Tyranid drop pod has been finally dispatched. Took fire from the rockets up here with Prescience and did a fair few wounds there. A bit more damage was chucked in by the Havocs up here in this building. They also fired down and took it down to 1 wound. So the last wound here was from the Combi Bolters from the Terminators, fired over there and finally took that down. So potentially, if the Vindicator isn't destroyed, it could hold that objective, although it did suffer 3 wounds from the explosion from the drop pod there. Not good. And over here, the Swarm Lord has also fallen there. He took a fair bit of plasma fire coming in here. Deathguard troops here fired in. Lots of small arms, and eventually he also fell. And finally, the end of a bit of shooting. Oh, actually, there's one more bit. Sorry, Land Raider here fired in here, killed off the Trigon Prime, and that's gone. Tervagon, sorry, Tervagon is gone. Psychic Backlash, did that do anything?
Yeah, 3 Tervagon.
3 Gaunt over here.
And 6 on the other side.
And 6 on the other side there. So it did a fair bit. The Greater Blight Drones here, as well as the Chosen, did a fair bit of damage. So their leadership is going to be shocking now they're out of Synapse. And I'm not sure they're going to be able to pass, but we will find out. So let's move on to turn 4 Assault for Chaos. Alright, so the end of turn 4 Assault for Chaos. So down here, the Plague Bearers and the Chaos Terminator is charged into combat against this beast. Did a fair bit of damage there, still got 4 wounds remaining, but he did take out a Chaos Terminator in his counter-attack there, which is kind of pretty nasty because in terms of the major threat there. Moving across the battlefield, the Chaos Lord and the Chosen have charged in here, wiping out the last of the Gaunts, destroying Gavin's chances here to secure this with troops. So that's that. Let's move into turn 5 for the Tyranids.
As we enter the final turn for the Tyranids on turn 5, because 5 turns is what we set as our turn limit today. Over here, the remaining Tyranid units start to move, can move forward, except for these guys to stay still to keep a synapse ring, around these guys. But The X-Queen has moved forward to try and obviously secure this central objective from the Vindicator. We'll see how that goes. We've had another one move around here, ready to start to pepper whatever it can get in range of. Obviously that unit can't move, it's being a fortification. And finally on this side of the board, we've had the remaining termagants move up and around here. They did do an advance to try and get as near as possible to here, but they didn't really get too far, sadly. So we'll see what happens in the psychic and shooting phase for the Tyranids. So at the end of turn 5, psychic and shooting for the Tyranids, a bit of a frustrating one I think, because it didn't result in too many casualties. However, the rubrics have all been wiped out. And I think a couple of guys in this squad here were from the, was it the Tyranid? No, the Exocrine, sorry, in the middle. Killed the Havocs.
Smites and all sorts.
Yeah, in those guys. So that was pretty successful psychic there. Onto this side of the board, I think there was basically Tyranid effects shot from here into the Land Raider, but didn't actually do any damage, sadly. And also, I think anything else that was shot out here didn't really receive any damage, apart from a cheeky little chosen Marine over here that got killed by the Termagant. So we'll now head on into Chaos, turn 5.
Whoa.
So at the end of turn 5 for the Tyranids, during the combat phase that we had, unfortunately the X-Queen here did not make his charge, which was a bit disappointing because he only needed to get to there to sort of either deny or even potentially kill that unit in the middle. The Morlock over here unfortunately met his end to Terminators and Plague Bearers pretty much, which completely destroyed him. He did not blow up either. And that's actually it. There's no other combats anyway, so we're going to move on to the final turn for Chaos and see what happens. Okay, so turn 5 for Chaos. We've had the movement phase, however we're going to leave it after the movement phase because there's not actually much else that can happen in the game due to the way the points are going to end up. So the Lord up here got up to here in range of this objective, and also the Beastie Boy here managed to get to a 14-inch move with his advance just due to some special rules he has, and got right into the middle as well to secure that in case, but it wasn't really needed luckily. Other than that, obviously at the back here we managed to secure our own objective as well. So we're going to come back in a minute with the points at the end of this Apocalypse game, and we'll see who's won and what the scores were. Okay, so the game has finished and we have the scores. It was 17 points to Chaos and 6 points to the Nids. The only reason the points really jumped up at the end for Chaos was because they actually held this objective at the back, which is actually worth 5 to them from the Lords. So that really does actually give us quite a big points boost. And obviously we actually managed to, I think, wipe out all the HQs and Super Heavies, which gave us a point each. So, and obviously holding the central ones here, giving 2 each. So yeah, we really managed to hold the field and also kill everything that was required for points. However, it was an absolutely cracking game. It was really nice to play Tyranids on the channel as well, because I think it's one of the better games we've had in a long time, especially Apocalypse-wise. So thanks for bringing along, Gavin, and playing on your own against 3 of us. It's been an interesting day, but we had a good fun. So anyway, guys, what's your favourite unit of the game? Dom?
I'm eating.
You're eating? Okay, Daryl?
You know what? Just to be cheeky, it's just Nurglings. I set them up on
The
that
Nurglings.
objective thinking they're going to die. And one base survived throughout the entire game.
Excellent.
So in my mind, just got a little Nurgling holding up whatever's there, going, mine, it's mine!
Dom?
I'll probably say the Terminators.
Terminators,
Terminators killed off 2 of the big monstrous Morlocks and the drop pod. And yeah, pretty good.
I suppose
going.
considering they started from 3 after getting blown out of a Land Raider.
Killed initially. Yeah, pretty good going.
Gavin?
My favourite unit is probably my Neurophrotes with the Zonophrotes.
These chaps here. Yeah, they were quite deadly and impressive actually.
I didn't get them upfield fast enough.
Yeah, I think if you brought them right in the front line, I think it would be very interesting to see how they kind of rip through things, because after that, just seeing that last squad just get completely obliterated in about two seconds was amazing. And for myself, I am going to go with my Havoc squads, which are back here still with the combination of the Sorcerer, just because actually they were really, really cool back here. They're really good little units that just kept pumping out shot after shot with the rockets and the heavy bolters, which definitely chipped away a lot of wounds in the long run. And yeah, made it a good game. But anyway, thank you everyone for watching. And this is Tom and Dom from BlackToad Studios, and we shall see you soon.